Dave and Parker are at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Let's see what they have to say.
Krista, we are getting revved up here in Charlotte for the 600 weekend. In fact, first practice just ended, only practice today. Daniel Hemrick throwing down a lap almost 183 miles per hour in qualifying trim. Parker is fresh off the track in Q trim. What was it like out there just moments ago, and what can we look forward to on Sunday, as this is the first time this package has been raced here?
Well, it's really interesting to me is you have all these drivers who did the Open, they did the All-Star race, they show up very prepared, but they still are all doing something a little bit different. When I look through the data after here in practice, you know, you have guys who are easy flat out because their car must have that grip to do that, but they're also carrying a lot of speed on the straightaway, so they must be trimmed out. And then you have other guys who are lifting a little bit, but they're still just as fast. And then you have other guys who are using the brake. So there's no right way to do it, which is interesting because compared to what we had a year ago, where you looked through the field and everyone was doing something very similar and it was just about the grip of their car, now everyone does something different and they're still making speed. Wow.
And the weatherman is telling us hottest 600 ever possibly Sunday night. What do you think about that?
Well, I needed to work out more probably before this.
More hydrating, more
hydrating.
Yeah.
I've heard some drivers have all sorts of different ideas of how to hydrate, but for myself personally, I've got, I always take some Pedialyte in the car. I've got a different hydrating source now called Liquid IV that I'm pretty excited about. So hopefully that all works, but I don't think there's any right way. That's up to each driver, whatever they need to stay cool, because that's going to be brutal.
Speaking of hot, Alex Bowman has finished second in the last 3 points-paying races, and he's a guy who hasn't won a race yet, Parker. This place rewards, it seems, first-time winners. What about Sunday night?
He would be my pick. If I was to say who's going to win their first race, it would absolutely be Alex Bowman. I mean, he showed a lot of speed here in the mile and a half as of late. I think this is a perfect race suited for him. I think that 88 team is excelling in all different areas, whether it's on pit road, getting off pit road, doing all the things you need to do that over a 600-mile race will make the difference. So I think that team's poised to definitely get their first win. If we're talking about first-time winners, he would be my pick.
So, Krista, tonight at the track, qualifying for the Cup Series, followed by the ARCA race. And I'm told that before that, Boyer and Newman actually have an appearance together for a sponsor. So that could be interesting, too. Parker and I'll be back here tomorrow.
So I guess Boyer and Newman being interesting because it was so entertaining last weekend?
Well, the great thing about it is it's autograph sessions at a Bass Pro Shop where there's lots of guns and bows and arrows. I mean, this could get really ugly. I'm sure those guys have talked about it. You know how drivers are, especially veterans like that. They've probably had a chance to reach out to one another. I'm sure that it's not over, or as far as there's still some hurt feelings, because a guy got punched on live television. That's not something you get over in a couple days. So I'm sure Newman's still a little upset about it, but it'll be interesting to see if anything comes out of that driver or that autograph session.
Yeah. I feel like we can't see this enough.
I love how drivers now be like, well, you know how drivers are. They weren't that way when they were in the car. They're much more level-headed now. I'm not confident
we decided to worry about it no more.
I don't leave it up to the drivers. So it'll be interesting to see how they race each other.
So are there storylines coming out of, steering ahead to the Coke 600, which Dave and Parker talked about, but drivers maybe maximizing their moment?
Well, I think, you heard about Alex Bowman. He is on a hot streak right here. But I go back to last week's Open, right? We had Bubba Wallace and William Byron, two guys that we haven't seen at the front of some of these fields. The beauty of the All-Star race is the field gets split. And they both had a moment, right? William Byron winning the stage to move forward. Bubba Wallace having that, not just a win, but an emotional win. You could see the weight on his shoulders. So while I don't say they're favorites for the Coca-Cola 600, we saw Jeff Gordon get his first ever win there. We saw Casey Mears win there. We've seen the 3-car go back to victory lane with Austin Dillon. That race, much like Indianapolis and 500 miles for the IndyCar guys, is very hard to predict. 600 miles at Charlotte makes, I don't know what it is, about 100 miles. It shouldn't be that much extra, but AJ, from being in the car, 100 miles can make all the difference. We have seen, so I won't say odd winners, but maybe some people that weren't favorites heading into the race end up at victory lane.
Oh, it matters, that extra 100 miles, right, Dale? I mean, it definitely seems like it. And you're right. It seems like whether that race is a fuel strategy race or just, we talk about the Indy 500, odd things happen in that race too. Not as much now with stage racing because it does break it up a little bit. But, you look at who was quickest in practice. Daniel Hemrick. I know a different package, but he was really fast last week in the Open. Really probably had the car to beat. It would have been interesting to see if he got into the All-Star race, if they would have carried that speed over. So we've seen those RCR cars be fast by themselves. Can they carry that over into a race simulation and go out there for 600 miles? And you talk about surprise winners of like that Casey Mears. could Daniel Hemrick also be that type of guy?
I'm also going to be looking for these guys and how they hold up for 600 miles. We saw Denny Hamlin get out of the car after, I think, Dover, and he wasn't feeling very well. And it's the high corner speeds, the G-force. It's going to get faster as the race goes on because it falls into the night and the track cools down. These guys are going to have to be dealing with the intense heat that we're going to have on that race day. This is really going to put the drivers to a test.
And longer, wide open throttle.
Yeah,
with this package of running wide open, that car's going to be way warmer.
And that's the thing, really, too, at Charlotte. I mean, that line at some point, whether it's early in the race or late in the race, it's going to move up to the wall, and we've seen it. You just, with these race cars right now, it seems like you hit the wall just a little bit, it kills the aero. So 600 miles, whether it's physical or mental fatigue, really plays in, especially the last couple hundred miles. Really, if you're running the top as well, because it's tough up there. That wasn't my thing. That was more Dale's thing. Like, it wasn't my thing up there.
So last week at Charlotte, it was tempers. This weekend, it could be temperature that becomes the biggest storyline.
Hey, Motorsports fans, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe before you go for all the latest news and highlights across motorsports.